I think one of the most important things to learn in cooking is how to properly caramelize onions. Onions are 90% water. So when you just flash them in a pan until they're translucent, you're ending up with probably 10% or 15% onion and still 80%, 70% water. I'm going to show you how I caramelize onions. When I take a recipe that calls for one onion diced and cooked for a short amount of time, I'll usually cut 4 or 5 onions and caramelize them. It takes some time and patience. Here's how I do it. So I got a recipe calling for 1 small onion diced. You're looking at 4 large Vidalia onions sliced. We have a pot with butter, and I'm going to turn that on until the butter's melted and add the onions. Now that our butter is melted, we're going to pour in our onions. Stir them up a little bit. We're going to turn the oven to about medium. Put a cover on it. Go watch some football. Keep in mind when caramelizing onions that the goal is to eliminate the moisture without burning the onion. You can easily burn an onion while it still has 80% of the moisture in it, and then you're just going to end up with a black burnt onion. We want to have patience and time. In order to caramelize 4 to 5 onions like we're doing today, it could take 45 minutes. When I do a full pot of onions for French onion soup, I use about 20 large Vidalia onions, and it takes about an hour and a half for me to caramelize onions. So remember, patience is a big part of this. Let's take a look. We've been 20 minutes now, and you can see now that the onions are translucent. Lots of moisture. I'm going to lower the heat a little bit because I can start to see a little bit of browning, and it's way too early. But you can see all the water vapor that's given off. We're going to let this continue now with the cover off and get rid of some of that moisture that we're looking to get rid of. Okay, so we've been 30 minutes now. A lot of the moisture has been cooked out of these onions, and now we're going to kick her up to high. This is the part where you can't just walk away and watch football or sip on your beer or wine. We got to stay right on top of this now that we're going to turn it on high. We're going to drive the remaining amount of moisture out of these onions and keep stirring it every minute or so that they don't burn. And in the end, you'll see we're going to end up with about 10%, maybe 15% of the original pile of onions that we had. We'll be right back for the finishing touches. Just a quick science fact, when you caramelize onions, what you're doing is not only driving the moisture out, but when you do it slowly, like we're doing it here today, you are not only driving the moisture out, you're changing the chemical composition of what's left behind. You're changing starches into sugars, and that's what gives the sweet flavor when you caramelize onions. Okay, here we are, 45 minutes after starting. We've been on high for 15 minutes with constant stirring to make sure we're not going to burn. And you start to see a nice golden brown color and maybe a little bit of browning on the pan. It's time to finish them off. Actually, these are finished caramelized onions right now, but I'm going to do my little finishing touch. Tablespoon of minced garlic. Teaspoon of coarse ground pepper, and Pinot Grigio. Make sure you taste it first. That's good. We're going to just pour some in there, maybe 1/4 cup, 1/3 of a cup. We're going to deglaze the bottom of the pan, make sure we get all the goodums off the bottom of the pan. Let this cook off for just a minute or two, and we've got caramelized onions that you can then use in whatever recipes you wish. Okay, you can see how much the portion is now compared to the pile we started with. So to recap, whenever a recipe calls for sauteed onions, anything else, if you have the time and patience to caramelize your onions, you're going to get a much more intense and sweet flavor out of the onions that will absolutely change the recipe for the better. Because of how much time it takes, I recommend caramelizing lots more than you need, because the next day you might want to throw it on a hamburger or a steak, or in any other recipe. It keeps quite a few days in the refrigerator in a nice sealed container. The first recipe I'm going to make for the family website using the caramelized onions is the corn chowder, and there'll be many more, including my French onion soup. Thank you.